As soon as the witch saw what had transpired, she stood up, albeit slowly than last time, and ran towards the Empress. The witch was 4 meters away from the Empress. 3 meters from the Empress. 2 meters from the Empress. 1 meter from the blue tink, said the Empress nonchalantly. The witch stopped right on her tracks. If a person had strolled by at that moment without witnessing the hectic battle that took place a few moments ago, he would think that she was a sculpture of some kind, due to how well she blended with the environment. The crack on her mask widened, making a subtle noise. A few drops of blood fell on the ground. Born in Shitsu, daughter of renowned physician Lu Kuo. The witch felt an invisible gale go through her. Her entire body became cold and her breathing became irregular and hasty. Married to Yuan Kun, Right Assistant Clerk to the Department of State Affairs Deputy Director. Deceased 2 weeks later in a fire. Enough! An abrupt scream came from the witch. Her body was slightly bent forward and tight, her arms slightly to her sides and hands open in a menacing way. The fur on her cloak almost looked as if stood up. Her behavior was very much different from the cold, calculating individual they had seen so far. The mask broke, and the remaining pieces fell on the ground. Unkempt hair covered some of Lu Tink's face. She had a slightly turned up nose. Her eyes were dark brown. There was a burn scar on her left cheek. The officer was watching from a few meters away. His body faced the ground sideways in order to avoid much fatigue, while at the same time to not miss anything that was happening in front of him. The Empress seemed unfazed by the witch's scream. In fact, her lips drew a sinister smirk. So, it was you after all. You've been a bit difficult to find. Quite the nuisance, I might add. The witch began to take a step towards the Empress menacingly. 4 regiments of the Northern Army will scorch this entire land if I don't come back unharmed by dawn. I wouldn't do anything imprudent if I were you. The witch stood still. She was still breathing rapidly. Her posture reminded of a beast begging to be unleashed on her prey. The Empress started to have difficulty hiding her smile. She walked her horse towards the witch, and then slowly circling around her as she spoke. Your resourcefulness is quite impressive. She was looking at the 2 loyal soldiers lying on the ground, and then at the patches of smoke and artifacts spread around the cabin. Your talents, without a doubt, are being wasted here in the wilds. From now on, you are to live in the Imperial Laboratory and pledge your skills to the Empire's heavenly designs. Leave this place, said the witch in a quiet but disturbed manner. The Empress stopped her horse in front of her. The distance between them shortened greatly. You're taking my words as if it was a request. The Empress slowly changed her playful attitude. She was somehow becoming taller and dominant. Her current posture was more akin to her title. Your Empress commands it. Tink's face showed disdain for the Empress's words. I have no interest in your petty palace quarrels, accidents, treachery, and infidelity. Now leave this place before I blow you so sky high you'll meet your precious heaven! Yelled the witch while grabbing a round artifact made with hardened clay. There was a medium-sized fuse coming out of it. The Empress smiled again. Apparently this forest creature can speak more than 3 words, and has quite the sharp tongue. Who would have thought? And let's not forget the fact that you've been a very self-indulgent, if not to say, egotistic daughter. What kind of offspring does not ask about her progenitor's wellness? The witch's eyes, no, Lu Tink's eyes, widened up. Was he still alive? He should have rotten in an imperial prison cell by now after all that happened back then. No, she's just toying with me. But what if he wasn't dead? Knowing how they operate, he would surely be in a deplorable state. Memories from her past life started coursing through her mind. A person of great talent, passion, discipline, and tenderness occupied her mind for a short time. The course of her emotions quickly flew into resentment and abandonment. Lu Ting's face returned to her previous self. I have no such thing. This is your last warning. She lit the fuse on her bomb with a small stone that she had as a pendant. The Empress looked at the fuse and then at Lu Ting. One could tell that she was looking for additional weaknesses. Then she said, Heaven's designs are inevitable. We are all its subjects. Ones may be more influential than others, of course, but at the core, we are one and the same. You will soon learn that heaven is a river that no rock nor boulders can contain or stray its course. Come, Lieutenant General Yue. Lu Ting was so focused on her exchange with the Empress that she had not noticed the shadow towering over her. She quickly took a step forward and turned around, but the warrior was already too close. With one hand he grabbed her by her upper left arm, and with the other he quickly and sturdily grabbed the fuse, putting it out for good. A small smoke came out of his palm as well as a slight burning sound. The witch took a quick look at the bomb and then at her very recent opponent. Then she violently shook him off and made a couple of steps backwards. The warrior then moved towards the cabin to carry his fellow brethren. The witch did not budge from her position and didn't let them out of her sight. The warrior's quick recovery was undeniably impressive. Even the witch was surprised by his ability to stand up, and let alone walk. Her poison was a custom concoction capable of neutralizing large animals for hours. Maybe it could be due to the warrior's physical prowess, his unrelenting loyalty for his empress, or just the fact that he hadn't inhaled as much poison as she thought he had. He slowly led his subordinate horses to where they saw them last. The Empress also accompanied him. On his way to the cabin's entrance, he saw one of his warriors against the cabin's wall, heavily breathing and drenched in sweat. His subordinate tilted his head towards the left while looking at his officer. Once inside, the officer found his other subordinate inside the cabin. He was still breathing, but in a harsh condition. He had fell on his face and had much difficulty breathing with his mouth and nose facing the ground. He turned the veteran warrior's body to face the ceiling to check on him. He was still conscious and could answer basic questions by nodding his head. He then carried him towards his horse and then he helped the other warrior as well. The witch stood where she was, barely moving an inch. She was still in shock from how the warrior had snuck on her despite his current condition. She was looking at them from afar. She was also very used to a very calm life. She would usually go into the woods, gather food and materials for her experiments, sometimes descend from the hill and watch the village, then go back to the cabin. Since the day they tried to chase her out of the peak, they left her alone. After that day, she was both relieved and annoyed. Today many things had happened in a short time. As they were leaving the peak, the witch put a hood on and said, "The poison requires no cure. It will disappear from their system after a day." She then turned her back and headed to the cabin. The party journeyed back to where they left their chariot, empty-handed. The wind had stopped blowing, but the clouds had become darker, making it difficult to see.
May I speak freely, Your Imperial Majesty?
She quickly glanced over the two poisoned soldiers.
You may do so. Make it quick,
said the Empress as they were slowly riding down the hill. Both warriors were being carried sideways on top of their horses and were given medicinal herbs. They had fallen asleep.
Why didn't you give me the order to apprehend her?
Because that woman was suicidal and you were unfit to detain her. You were basically a walking corpse at that point. Yue looked at the ground and then raised his head.
I have failed to keep the oath I made to the Emperor.
Not quite. I already made arrangements in case this casual visit wasn't enough. Once we arrive at the military camp, we shall discuss your...
A moment, Your Imperial Majesty.
The Empress opened her eyes wide. Are you interrupting me, you disgraceful... He bowed his head and joined his hands.
There's someone lurking in the bushes.
As soon as he said it, he recovered his short bow, galloped a few steps forward, and pointed towards where he thought this individual was hiding.
Show yourself.
From the bushes, a small stocky figure appeared. It was the peasant they met at the clearing. Hi, I'm so sorry to bother you, your excellency. I just heard those loud noises and I came to check. He glanced immediately at the resting soldiers and said, You look like you need some help. Please, let me lead you to the village. Your soldiers will be well taken care of. My wife makes the best millet porridge in the entire region. And we also keep some rice wine for occasions such as these.
Return to your village, peasant, and keep your mouth shut,
said Yue, while stretching his arrow all the way. But please, you must reconsider. Your comrades are wounded and I'd like to... He let the arrow fly, and it pierced the old man's right shoulder. He let off a cry of pain and fell to his back while grabbing his shoulder. The old man's eyes turned red. His face changed completely after that arrow. Not into fear and submission like last time, but in uncontrolled anger. He screamed, Get them! Get them now! Suddenly, many quick steps could be heard around the party. Heavy steps. Armed steps. In a few seconds, they were surrounded by 24 armed men. Most of them wielded spears, and a couple of them had worn short swords and bows. There appeared to be a leader among them who wore an old sturdy armor. Many scars could be seen around his body. Oh, I had to see this to believe it. The Empress itself graces us with her presence on this muddy, forsaken joke of a village. Well, I ain't complaining. I never look at the gifted horse in his mouth. Soldiers burst in an overblown laugh. Look at those sleepy guys over there. Bo, why don't you go get a shovel and start digging a hole for those two?
Fools! I shall gut you all and display your putrid corpses around your puny village. You better come at me all at once if you want to stand a chance, you filthy worms!
The armed men stopped their laughing. They were clearly shaken by the bravado Yue showed. Oh, shut your trap, you ghost. I ain't got a single idea what happened to you up there, but you fellas got smashed by that witch. You look like a bunch of twigs, ready to fly as soon as a slight breeze sets in. And I'm gonna take my time with you. As much as the other guy you left at the chariot as soon as we find him. We stuck a couple of arrows on him after he killed 3 of our men and went poof. Leave the killing blow to me, Yun. That bastard treated me like a dry piece of dung. We are tired of you. Imperials coming here high and mighty and looking down on us. You're dying here and now, and very painfully. The armed men became bloodthirsty and eager to begin the assault. Alright fellas, the one who kills that horseman first gets to deliver the first kissing blow to the Empress. Then we can hold her for some very good coin. How does that grab y'all? The bandits let out a sinister laugh and charged. I hope you liked this video. If you would like me to make more videos of this kind, please leave a comment below. And also, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And remember, it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from, you're always welcome here.